Hello students, today I bring for you a new chapter and that is ecosystem of class 12th. In this chapter, we are going to cover important topics like ecosystem, structure and function, productivity, decomposition, energy flow and your ecological pyramid. So, let's start this chapter with this PDF. Here, what do you mean by ecosystem? Now, ecosystem is a functional unit of nature where living organisms interact each other and also with the physical environment, that is their surrounding environment. Coming to types of ecosystem, it is of three types: terrestrial ecosystem, which includes forest, grassland, desert, etc. Aquatic ecosystem includes pond, lake, wetland, river and estuary, and man-made ecosystem includes crop field and aquarium. Let's see the structure and function of ecosystem. Entire biosphere is regarded as global ecosystem. That is, our Earth is a global ecosystem. In an ecosystem, biotic and abiotic means all the living and non-living components interact and function as a unit. Vertical distribution of different species occupying different level is called stratification. Remember, important term is stratification. So what is stratification? It is the vertical distribution of different species. Vertical distribution of different species occupying different level is called stratification. For example, in a forest, you can see tree occupy a top strata, that is layer. You can see it is the emergent layer, then canopy layer, understory layer, shrub layer, and ground layer. Okay, so like this is the strata or layers. Means emergent layer, that is the top one, and then coming to canopy, then understory layer, shrub, that is small plants, as you can see, shrubs, and then ground layer, that is grasses at the bottoms. Next, pond aquatic ecosystem. A pond is a shallow, simple, self-sustainable water body that exhibit all basic components of an ecosystem. Obviously, here you can see abiotic components, then some autotrophic components, some heterotrophic components, and even decomposers are also. Here, abiotic components includes water and soil deposits are abiotic components. Coming to climatic conditions, that are solar input, cycle of temperature and day length, etc. Coming to autotrophic components, phytoplanktons, some algae, and the floating, submerged and marginal plants. Coming to consumers, that are zooplankton, free swimming and bottom dwelling forms. Then finally decomposers, that includes fungi, bacteria and flagellates. Some more points. Pond perform all the functions of an ecosystem. Example, autotrophs convert inorganic to organic material using solar radiant energy. Heterotrophs consume autotrophs and decomposition and mineralization of the dead matter to release them back for reuse by the autotrophs. Simple. Here, there are four basic important components of an ecosystem, that are productivity, decomposition, energy flow and nutrient cycling. First, you are going to see productivity. But before we start this, let's see what your NCERT says here. First definition, an ecosystem can be visualized as a functional unit of nature where living or living organisms interact among themselves and also within the surrounding physical environment. It also varies greatly in size, like from some small pond to a large forest or a sea. Then the system is too much big and complex to be studied at one time, so it is convenient to divide it into two basic categories, namely terrestrial and aquatic. Forest, grassland and desert are some examples of terrestrial ecosystem, while the pond, lake, wetland, river and estuary are some examples of aquatic ecosystem. Crop field and aquarium may also be considered as man-made ecosystem. Let's see ecosystem structure and function. Here it is given: interaction of biotic and abiotic components result in a physical structure that is characteristics for each type of ecosystem. Identification and enumeration of plant and animal species of an ecosystem gives its species composition. Vertical distribution of different species occupying different level is called stratification. For example, tree occupy top vertical strata or layer of a forest, shrubs the second, and herb and grasses occupy the bottom layer. Then the components of the ecosystem are seen to function as a unit when you consider the following aspects, that are productivity, decomposition, energy flow, and nutrient cycling. Here some more points are given. The abiotic components is the water with all the dissolved inorganic and organic substances and the rich soil deposit at the bottom of the pond. That's why pond is taken as a important ecosystem. The solar input, the cycle of temperature, day length, and other climatic conditions regulate the rate of function of the entire pond. The autotroph component includes phytoplankton, some algae which are floating, even submerged, and some marginal plants found at the edges. Then coming to consumers, where the zooplankton, the free swimming and bottom dwelling forms. Then finally the decomposers includes fungi, bacteria, and flagellate. First see the productivity. Let's see this PDF here. Productivity. Here you see solar energy is the basic requirement for an ecosystem to function and sustain. We all know amount of biomass, that is organic matter, produced per unit area over a time period by plant during photosynthesis is called primary production. Remember, what is primary production? The amount of organic matter or biomass produced per unit area over a time period by plants during photosynthesis is called primary production. It is expressed in weight, that is as weight G minus 2. It says the gram per square meter. Remember, G minus 2, what we write it now? Grams per square meter. Remember, or energy equal to kilocalorie per square meter. Simple. The rate of biomass production is called productivity. The rate of biomass production is called productivity. It is expressed in G minus 2 YR minus 1. It pronounces as gram per square meter per year. Okay, grams per square meter per year or kilocalorie per square meter per year. Remember, it is divided into gross primary productivity GPP and net primary productivity. What is gross primary productivity? What is net primary productivity? Let's see. First of all, gross primary productivity GPP. It is the rate of production of organic matter during photosynthesis. How much organic matter plants produce during photosynthesis is called gross primary productivity. Remember, a considerable amount of GPP is used by plant for respiration. Plant produces the energy, also utilizes it. Then coming to net primary productivity, NPP. It is the available biomass for the consumption to heterotrophs, herbivores and decomposers. That is, NPP is gross primary productivity minus respiration losses R. Here remember, gross primary productivity, you will understand, it is the total rate of production of organic matter during photosynthesis. How much plants prepare their food, that is called gross primary productivity. Then plants also utilizes it, and after utilizing, the utilizing by plant is called respiration losses. So after plant utilizes it, the amount of the available biomass for the consumption of the heterotrophs, that are herbivores and decomposers, that is called NPP, that is net primary productivity. So here NPP equal to gross primary productivity minus respiration losses. Remember, questions are asked. Then coming to secondary productivity, it is the rate of formation of new organic matter by consumer. It is the rate of formation of new organic matters by consumers. Primary productivity varies in different ecosystems because it depends on plant species, inhabiting the area, environmental factor, availability of nutrients, and photosynthetic capacity of the plant. Then annual net primary productivity. Annually, all the plants of the earth, they produce about 170 billion tons of organic matter, that is called dry weight. Annually, plants produce, the whole biosphere is about to produce 170 billion tons, that is the annual NPP. Of this, despite occupying 70% of the surface, the productivity of the oceans is 55 billion. We all know in the earth there are 70% surfaces are occupied by oceans, but their productivity is way below, that is 55 billion tons. Remember. Then coming to decomposition. Before starting this, let's see the NCERT what it says about productivity. Here, a constant input of solar energy is the basic requirement for any ecosystem to function and sustain. Here again the same points are given. Primary production defined as the amount of biomass or organic matter produced per unit area over a time period by plants during photosynthesis. It is expressed in terms of weight, that is grams per square meter, or energy, kilocalories per square meter. The rate of biomass production is called productivity. It is expressed in terms as grams per meter square per year or kilocalories per meter square per year to compare the productivity of different ecosystem. It can be divided into GPP and NPP. We already seen, same points are given. Then coming to secondary productivity. Secondary productivity defines the rate of formation of new organic matter by the consumer. Here, same the annual net productivity, same points are given. Here a question is asked in your NCERT. Discuss the main reason for the low productivity of ocean. Why ocean, that is occupying 70% of the surface of the earth, but it produces only 55 billion tons, while in the remaining 30% way more than the tons or dry weight of organic matter are produced. So the reasons are here, listen. Limited light availability. First point, limited light availability. Producers in aquatic ecosystems depends on light, obviously, which is scarce in deeper layer of the ocean. Obviously, then low nutrient supply. The amount of minerals and nutrients in oceanic water is less compared to the soil in terrestrial ecosystem. Nutrient is low, that's why the production also becomes low. Then stratification and reduced mixing. Density differences and limited mixing restrict nutrient supply in the open oceans. This also a point. Then finally, global warming. Anthropogenic increase in greenhouse gases affect ocean stratification and nutrient availability, decreasing productivity. These are the points. Questions will be asked. Why the productivity of ocean is low? Discuss the main reason. So you have to write these 4 points. Okay. Next, decomposition. Let's see the PDF. What it says about decomposition. Here, it is a breakdown of complex organic matter by decomposers into inorganic substances like CO2, water and nutrients. It is largely an oxygen requiring process. Raw material for decomposition is called detritus. Remember, one new word is given, detritus. Raw material for decomposition is called detritus. Example, dead plant remainings, leaves, bark, flowers, dead remains of animals and fecal matter. Okay. Next, steps of decomposition. First is fragmentation, then leaching, catabolism, humidification, mineralization. Here the diagrams are there. Fragmentation, leaching, okay, then catabolism, humidification and mineralization. Let's see about this. What is fragmentation? Here the breakdown of detritus into smaller particles by detrivores. Breakdown of detritus into smaller particles by detrivores. Example, the earthworm. Okay. Second, leaching. Leaching means water soluble inorganic nutrients go down into soil horizon and precipitate as unavailable salt. The water soluble inorganic nutrients, they goes down into the soil and precipitate as unavailable salts. Then coming to catabolism, degradation of detritus into simpler inorganic substances by bacterial and fungal enzymes, that is called catabolism. Here fragmentation, leaching and catabolism occur simultaneously. Remember, note down, fragmentation, leaching and catabolism, they occur simultaneously. Then coming to humification. Humification, that is the accumulation of humus. Accumulation of humus, that is dark amorphous substance in soil. Humus is resistant to microbial actions and so decomposes very slowly. Being colloidal in nature, it serves as a reservoir of nutrients. Then finally, mineralization. It is the release of inorganic nutrients due to the degradation of humus by some microbes, that is called mineralization. Here diagram is in your NCERT. Diagram is representation of the decomposition cycle in a terrestrial ecosystem. Here you see it is a plant, then a tree grows in soil, a green leaf falls to the ground, some are eaten by insect and other animals, nutrients, energy enter to the food web. Here as you can see, then some nutrients leach into soil by chemical actions, then coming to further decomposition by earthworms, bacteria, soil mites and fungi, organic rich soil, and then leaves partially consumed by decomposers such as fungi and bacteria, then begins to lose form and becomes litter, as you can see. Okay. Next, factors influencing decomposition. What are the factors? First of all, the chemical composition of detritus. Decomposition is slow in detritus rich in lignin and chitin. Decomposition is slow in detritus which are rich in lignin and chitin. It is quicker if detritus is rich in nitrogen, water soluble substances like sugars. If the detritus is rich in nitrogen and sugar, then it is quicker. Second is climatic factor, temperature and soil moisture. Warm and moist environment favors decomposition. Warm and moist environment, it favors the decomposition, and its opposite, it doesn't favor the decomposition, which take more time. Then low temperature and anaerobiasis inhibit the decomposition, resulting built up of an organic material. Next, finally, energy flow. Let's see the NCERT what it says about decomposition. Here, decomposers break down complex organic matter into inorganic substances like carbon dioxide, water and nutrients, and the process called decomposition. Dead plant remains such as leaves, bark, flowers and dead remains of animals includes fecal matter constitute detritus, which is the raw material for decomposition. The important steps are fragmentation, leaching, catabolism, humification and mineralization. Detrivores break down detritus into smaller particles. This process is called fragmentation. By the process of leaching, water-soluble inorganic nutrients go down into the soil horizon and gets precipitated as unavailable salts. Bacteria and fungal enzymes degrade detritus into simpler inorganic substances. This is called catabolism. Then coming to humification, as you know, it is a slow process which takes more time. Humification leads to accumulation of dark colored amorphous substance called humus that is highly resistant to microbial actions and undergoes decomposition at an extremely slow rate. Then the humus is further degraded by some microbes and release of inorganic nutrients occur by the process known as mineralization. Here it is the decomposition is controlled by chemical composition of detritus, climatic factor. In a particular climatic condition, decomposition rate is slower if detritus rich in lignin and chitin, and quicker if detritus rich in nitrogen and sugar. Temperature and soil moisture are also the important climatic factor that regulate decomposition through the effect of the activities of soil microbes. Warm and moist environment, it favors the decomposition, whereas low temperature and anaerobiasis inhibit the decomposition, which slow down, resulting in built up of organic material. Then energy flow. Let's see. Here you can see the sun is the only source of energy for all ecosystems except deep sea hydrothermal ecosystem. Of the incident solar radiation, less than 50% is photosynthetically active radiation. Of the incident solar radiation, less than 50% is photosynthetically active radiation. PAR is called, full form is asked. PAR means photosynthetically active radiation, less than 50%. Plant and photosynthetic and chemosynthetic bacteria that are autotrophs fix solar radiant energy to make food. Plant capture only 2 to 10% of the power. Out of the 50%, Plant only capture 2 to 10% of the photosynthetically active radiation. This energy sustains the entire living world. Then ecosystem obey the second law of thermodynamics. They need a constant supply of energy to synthesize the molecules. It helps to counteract the entropy. Then coming to producers or autotrophs, they are organisms that synthesize food. In a terrestrial ecosystem, major producers are herbaceous and woody plants. We all know. Primary producers in an aquatic ecosystem are phytoplanktons, algae and higher plants. The energy trapped by the producer is passed on to a consumer or the organism dies. Then coming to consumer or heterotrophs, these are animals that directly or indirectly depends on plants for food. They includes primary consumer, herbivores, they feed on plants, example insect, birds, mammals, mollusks, etc. Coming to secondary consumer, primary carnivores, they are feed on herbivores, example frog, fox, man, etc. Coming to tertiary consumers or secondary carnivores, they feed on primary carnivores, example tiger and lion. Here the food chain is given, as you can see. It starts with producer and sunlight, water is there, primary consumer, grasshopper, secondary consumer, frog, snake is the tertiary consumer, and finally is the hawk. Okay, then coming to decomposers. Next, the chain of feeding relationship between different organisms is called food chain. The chain of feeding relationship between different organisms, that is called food chain. It is of two types: grazing food chain and detritus food chain, GFC and DFC. Let's see the grazing food chain. Here, primary consumer feeds on living plants or producers. Example, grass, primary consumer, man is the secondary consumer. Okay. Coming to detritus food chain, here the primary consumer feed on dead organic matter. That is, death of organism is the beginning of detritus food chain. Here you can see leaves of cabbage eaten by caterpillar and caterpillar eaten by the thrush. Detritus food chain, dead leaves eaten by woodlouse and then eaten by blackbird. Then detritus is made up of decomposers or saprotrophs such as fungi and bacteria. They secrete digestive enzymes that broken down detritus into simple inorganic material which are absorbed by them. Thus, they get energy and nutrients. Here some examples are given: Pseudomonas, a decomposer bacterium; mushroom, a decomposer fungus, and here also decomposing fruits due to fungus. Then, in an aquatic ecosystem, GFC is the major conduct for energy flow. In a terrestrial ecosystem, a much amount of energy flow through the DFC than through the GFC. DFC may be connected with the GFC at some level. Some organisms of DFC are prey to the GFC animals. Animals like cockroaches, crow, humans, etc. are omnivores. Such interconnection of food chain is called food web. As you can see, food web, you all familiar with this term in class 10th. Then, trophic level. A specific place of organisms in the food chain is known as trophic level. A specific place of organisms in the food chain, that is primary producers. First trophic level, that are plants, phytoplankton, grasses, trees are primary producers. Then primary consumer. Coming to second trophic level, herbivores, that are zooplankton, grasshopper, cow. Secondary consumers are third trophic level, that are carnivores, birds, fishes, wolf, and tertiary consumers, fourth trophic level, that are top carnivore, example man, lion, etc. Then here you can see energy flow through different trophic levels. Sun provides heat absorbed by power, okay, and plants consume 2 to 10% of the power. First trophic level producers are plants. Then about we can say 90% of energy or the biomass is used by the heat. Heat means their respiration. Only 10% transform to the next trophic level, that is coming to secondary trophic level or primary consumer herbivores. Here also 90% again used through respiration, through the growth, metabolism, reproduction, and only 10% transfer to the next trophic level, that is the third trophic level. or secondary consumer carnivores. Here also 90% utilized, 10% to transfer to the fourth trophic level. You all familiar with the 10% law? Okay, same points are given. Here also again they are also consumed by different other organisms like this, and then the amount of energy decreases at successive trophic levels. When an organism dies, it becomes dead biomass or detritus. It is an energy source for the decomposers. Organism at each trophic level depends on those at the lower trophic level for energy. Then the amount of living material in a trophic level at a given time is called standing crop. Remember, questions are asked you. The amount of living material in a trophic level at a given time is called standing crops. Okay, it is measured as biomass, that is mass of living organisms or number in unit area. Biomass of a species is measured in terms of fresh or dry weight. Dry weight is more accurate because it is the exact mass of the body which remains constant. Number of trophic level in GFC restricted it as follows: 10% law. Only 10% energy transferred to each trophic level from the lower trophic level. That's why it is restricted. Then coming to ecological pyramids. Let's see the NCERT what it says here. Energy flow, the solar radiations less than 50% of it is photosynthetically active radiation PAR, and the plants capture only 2 to 10% of the PAR, and this small amount of energy sustains the entire living world. Then the green plants in the ecosystem are called producers. In terrestrial, major producers are herbaceous and woody plant, and in aquatic, phytoplankton, algae and higher plants. Then consumers, herbivores, primary carnivore, and here the food chain is there: grass, goat, man. Then the DFC, the detritus food chain begins with dead organic matter, mainly fungi and bacteria. They are known as saprotrophs. Sapro means to decompose. Decomposers secrete digestive enzymes that break down dead and waste material into simple inorganic materials which are subsequently absorbed by them. In an aquatic ecosystem, GFC is the major conduit of energy flow in aquatic ecosystem. Then, based on the source of their nutrition or food, organisms occupy a specific place in the food chain known as trophic level. Here, same example is given: producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer. Next, each trophic level has a certain mass of living material at a particular time called the standing crop. The standing crop measured as the mass of living organisms, that is biomass, or the number in a unit area. The biomass of a species is expressed in terms of fresh or dry weight. Measurement of biomass in terms of dry weight is more accurate. Why? Because weight can vary based on physiological and environmental conditions, while dry weight remains unaffected by seasonal moisture differences. And dry weight provides better insight into ecosystem functioning and productivity. Remember, questions are asked and you have to write these 2 points. Then you see 10% law is given. You all familiar with it? 10% law, I already told you about this 10% law. Then ecological pyramid. Let's see the NCERT, the PDF, what it says: ecological pyramids. Here, the representation of food chain in the form of a pyramid is called ecological pyramid. The basis of a pyramid represents the producers, that are first trophic level. The apex represents the tertiary or top level consumer. Ecological pyramids are 3 types: pyramid of number, pyramid of biomass, and pyramid of energy. First, coming to pyramid of number. In grassland ecosystem, here you can see the primary producer, number of individuals are this number. This diagram is also in your NCERT. 58,42,000. Primary consumer little bit low, secondary consumer little bit low, and tertiary consumer little bit low, as you can see. Then coming to pyramid of biomass, here also it shows primary producers are this number 4, primary consumers 21, primary producers here also 809, primary consumer 37, secondary consumer this, and tertiary consumer 1.5. It is dry weight mentioned. kilogram per cubic meter. Here you can see in this type of pyramid, this one, it shows a sharp decrease of biomass at higher trophic level. Sharp decrease of biomass at higher trophic level, as you can see. But sometimes in inverted pyramid of biomass, small standing crops of phytoplankton support a large standing crop of zooplankton. Here you can see this type of pyramid is grown, that is called inverted pyramid of biomass. Next, pyramid of energy. Primary producer convert only 1% of the energy in the sunlight available to them into NPP, net primary productivity. Here, this much energy from sunlight, primary producers use this much energy, 10,000 joule. Primary consumer use this much energy, 1000 joule. Secondary consumer use this much energy, and tertiary consumer use this much energy because of the 10% law, where the 90% used as a form of heat, only 10% is transferred to the next trophic level. Okay. Next, any calculation of energy content, biomass or number has to include all organisms at the trophic level. A trophic level represents a functional level, not a species as such. A given species may occupy more than one trophic level in the same ecosystem at the same time. We all know that is food web we called. Example, a sparrow is a primary consumer when it eats seed, fruits, peas, and even coming to a secondary consumer when it eats insect and worms. Then, in most ecosystems, all the pyramids are upright, means straight. Upright means like this, like pyramid shape, straight one. Okay, that is producers are more in number and biomass than the herbivores, and herbivores are more in number in biomass than the carnivores. Also, energy at a lower trophic level is always more than at a higher trophic level. Examples of inverted pyramid. Remember, questions are asked. Insect feeding on a big tree. Producer, only one big tree is there. Herbivorous more because insects are present, and then parasites are also there, and hyperparasites, smaller one, are also there. Number is more. That is called insect feeding on a big tree. Pyramid of biomass in sea is inverted because the biomass of fishes far exceeded than that of phytoplankton. Producers, as you can see, 4 gram per meter square, and herbivores are 8 gram per meter square, carnivores are 12 grams per meter square. That's why in aquatic ecosystem, pyramid of biomass, it is inverted, and if an insect feeding on a big tree, then there will also see the inverted pyramid like this. Okay. Here, note is given, pyramid of energy is always upright because when energy flow from a trophic level to the next trophic level, some energy is always lost as heat at each step. Here some limitations are there of the ecological pyramid, that is, it does not take into account the same species belongs to 2 or more trophic levels. It assumes a simple food chain that almost never exists in nature. It does not accommodate a food web. Remember, questions are asked. Then, saprophytes are not included in ecological pyramid even though they play a vital role in the ecosystem. These are the limitations of ecological pyramid. Let's see the NCERT, what it says here. 3 types of ecological pyramids that are usually studied: pyramid of number, pyramid of biomass, and pyramid of energy. Here the same example is taken, as you can see. Then, the trophic level represents a functional level, not a species as such. A given species may occupy more than one trophic level in the same ecosystem at the same time. Example, sparrow is taken. Then, the pyramid of biomass in sea is generally inverted because the biomass of fishes far exceeded than the phytoplankton. Pyramid of energy is always upright, can never be inverted because when energy flows from a particular trophic level to the next one, some energy is always lost as a form of heat at each step. Then limitations. Here you can see limitations are, it does not take into account that the same species belongs to 2 or more trophic levels. It assumes a simple food chain, something that almost never exists in nature. It does not accommodate a food web. Moreover, saprophytes which play a vital important role in the ecosystem. They are not included in any ecological pyramids. Okay, these are the limitations. And with this, we have completed this chapter. Here, thank you all for watching this video, and if you like this video, share it with your friends and give a subscribe. Then you help me to grow and manage this channel, and your small effort makes a big difference in keeping this platform running and improving. So please subscribe my channel and be a part of my journey. Again, thank you for your support. Jai Jagannath.